So now we're going to hear from our first speaker, which is wonderful. I'd like to introduce Faye Jackson. Apologies, I'm going to read this to make sure I get it right, and I cover off all the incredible things Faye has done. Faye is a multi-award-winning national motivational speaker, educator and advocate, and voice for mental health. Faye previously held the role of Deputy Commissioner of New South Wales Mental Health Commission and has been the General Manager of Inclusion with Flourish Australia. She is a driving force in peer support movement in Australia and is the CEO of Vision in Mind, an organisation delivering mental health, peer recovery, resilience and suicide prevention support. Please welcome Faye. Faye, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for coming. I've come today from Bundjalung Nation, which is up past Byron Bay. And I give my undertaking to walk softly on this land while I'm here, and also my undertaking to do what I can do to try to make the future lives of people, of Aboriginal people, better than it has been in the past. And I wear the shame of my ancestors' brutality on the Aboriginal people. I own that. I am here, I shake, as you may have already noticed. It's an old joke, but I'll tell it anyway. This is not because I'm nervous, although I am. This is a side effect of lithium. I was forced onto lithium. I had no choice in it. My distress was pathologised, and I was given a diagnosis, which meant that then the Mental Health Act could come into place and treat me against my will, which went on for many years and has caused terrible damage to my body. So this is a lithium tremor. I make a joke about it. It's not funny at all, but you've got to try and find a way to live with it. I say it waves. It makes a good cup of tea and a good martini. But I did this in a boys' school talk once. Not a good idea. So I was born, fancy that. My mother didn't breastfeed me because Nestle told her that their milk was better than mother's milk. So she didn't bond with me. We need to make sure that young mothers have all the support that they need, because that's where the bedrock of our mental health is laid down. So, and we have this narrative that mental illness, which I don't ascribe to actually being illness, I think most of it is normal responses to trauma. That this is biologically in our makeup and runs through generations. Well, so does dirty old Uncle Tom. I was sexually abused as a child from between the ages of 4 and 8, not just by Uncle Tom, but by his group of mates. 1 in 4 girls are, and 1 in 5 boys. And it doesn't matter, rich or poor, it's happening everywhere. So in your community, a large percentage of the people that are in your community have experienced sexual abuse. This is going to make you uncomfortable, and I want to make you uncomfortable, because we are victims of your comfort. You need to be, Aboriginal people need us to be uncomfortable about what happened to them. We will never get change if we're comfortable. And that's the problem, isn't it? Services have made them comfortable in these little patches. I'm over here comfortable in my little patch here. I have these policies that I know, and they are God. And I'm over here in my little patch, and I have these policies and ways of working, and they are God. And it doesn't matter if it doesn't suit you. We're comfortable. You need to be uncomfortable, rattle it all up and come together and find the support that you have in each other, that you could have. Services should be working, all of your services together should be working like a beautiful orchestra. Orchestras aren't made of 70 violins. They're made of all these different instruments, all playing a special part to come together and build this beautiful music that transforms you and brings life and beauty and connection. And that's what you should all be doing together. But the people that you're serving, they should be the conductors. I should have been the conductor of my life. Instead, that was taken from me. All choice, all human rights were taken from me. And as such, my children, and my grandchildren have suffered for it. As soon as you're diagnosed, I'm a voice hearer. I'm not going to tell you my diagnosis, you can guess it. She's on lithium, she hears voices. I'm no longer on lithium. I've left it all behind, and I will never go back into a psychiatric ward because the way they are currently set up is traumatic. They are broken systems. They are not useful for anyone, including the doctors who've just walked out. And I'm not going to get into that. I have some very strong feelings about it. But you, the community, actually can do a whole lot better for people like me. Sorry, I just did your ears in then. Than a psychiatrist peddling me a pill that is going to severely impact my body. Now, I'm not, it may sound like I'm anti-psychiatry, I'm not. There are certainly people who value their psychiatrists. There are some great psychiatrists out there, just like there are great mechanics, But for many of us, all that has done is caused us damage and more trauma. And we need you, the community, to come around us now and help us to heal in a holistic way, knowing that you're all there for us. I would like you to imagine, I'm going to tell you my story very briefly, and I would like you to imagine that this is your mother, okay? We only have this moment together. I will probably never see you again. But could you do this for me? Could you imagine that my story is your mother's? And then I want you to recognise that the personal is the political. What happens for me is happening for thousands of people, millions of people, really. So you heard my mother didn't bond. You heard I was sexually abused between the ages of 4 and 8. The most wonderful sentence I think I've ever heard is, now she's 8, it's too late. And they left me alone. But I spent 2 years in the Children's Hospital in Sydney, and I was from the country, so I spent 2 years alone. Lots of operations. And as an old person now, I live with the damage that was done to my body. And as my body ages, that area of my body is causing a great deal of distress. You need to make decisions not just about what happens to young people when it's happening to young people, but the impact that may have in their future lives. You need to be looking holistically and intergenerationally. So I was also sexually abused as a teenager. Once you've got a diagnosis, you are fodder, because they know no one will believe you because you're just mad. When I could finally drive and get myself to a police station, They told me to go away. They've got real crimes to deal with. I left my little sister to it. I didn't know. They told me if I didn't tell anyone, they wouldn't touch her. But they did all along. But we keep quiet, and services didn't ask any question. While I was in hospital as a child, no one asked what had done that to me. No one spoke to my parents about it. No one came to my rescue. And then the physical health issues started. I started getting cervical cancer at the age of 17. By the age of 30, I'd had a hysterectomy. My children suffered because I wasn't healing. I was being treated, but not healing. I was being told, you're the broken one. The problem is in you. It's not in this community that we haven't provided to keep you safe. The problem is you're broken. You're mentally ill. No. I was responding to what had happened to me. And what I needed was love and care and people believing me and wrapping around me. It's what my children needed. My firstborn almost died because the doctors didn't believe that she wasn't feeding. Oh no, you're just neurotic. And refused my support. Refused me. And they gave instructions to the A&E to refuse me. My daughter almost died because I have mental illness. And then when my younger daughter, I lost a baby son between the two girls. Gosh, another diagnosis. Grief counselling, nowhere to be seen. I wasn't grieving, evidently. I was mad. My second live child, when she reached 13, she had these terrible pains in her stomach and was walking like this. What is it? On the right-hand side, pain in the stomach, appendicitis. Easy, I knew that. 3 times I went to the GPs to get them to examine her. 3 times. They refused to examine her and asked me if I was taking my medication. It was all in my head, they said. She almost died from a gangrenous appendicitis. She can't have children. Why? Because I have mental health issues. Do you understand that a decision made like that impacts the rest of your life? There's one, that painting. Do you have that? Excuse me, sound person. Do you have that painting? Are you able to get that up? I wanted to be an artist. Oh, it's a bit pixelated there, isn't it? Anyway, you may have seen this if you've done mental health first aid, it's in their manual. This is my painting. I wanted to be an artist, but then this happened to me. My art was taken from me. There's lots of different types of grief. We need to understand that people are living with trauma. They're living with grief. They're living with gaslighting. Services telling you it's all in your head is gaslighting. Even diagnosis, in my opinion, but that's just my opinion, is gaslighting when it comes to mental health issues because it's saying it's in your head. Sure it is, but it's in our head because of the trauma, the distress, not because of chemical imbalances in the brain that have been passed on through genetics. My children have suffered because of me. And now my grandson, who wanted to go into the army, was asked in his interview, is there any mental illness in your family? My grandson's honest. Yes, he says. He said, but Nana, I only told them you had depression. He was refused entry. Do you see? One decision made without care and consideration impacts generations. And you can have AI, but AI isn't going to know things like when I gave a talk at Luna Park, and I said, and there was lots of asylum seekers in the room, and I said that I'd been sexually abused as a child, and a lady stood and came towards and wanted to speak, and she had come from a war-torn nation, and she said that her and her children had been living in Australia for 5 years, and that they had been victims of rape as weapons of war, and she didn't know until that day when I said that I'd been sexually abused, that children and women in Australia, and we know boys too, but this is just what she said, are sexually abused. And she said, now I know that. Now I know that happens in Australia. Now my children and I can call Australia home. AI is never going to know that that kind of connection is what heals and makes people belong. We need to work together with the people to ask questions, be naive inquirers, find out what they need, not what your policy or what you think they need. Ask them. They need to be the conductors of their life. Thank you for having me. Do you want me to sit here or go down?
Go down. Wow, that was a really powerful story. Thank you so much for sharing, Faye. I personally heard a lot of my own story in some of what you said, and I think that many probably people in this room have heard parts of their story and what you shared too. And I think that shows that even in a community that is healthy and wealthy, there is a lot that is still hidden, that is causing a lot of pain and grief and trauma, and how important it is that we do connect with our discomfort and share our stories and experiences to support and heal each other on this journey across our lifespan. So thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that with us today.